Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I'm Tanner DeMarco from Rescue Dawn, and you're watching Bryan Mirando's Free For All podcast.
All right, here we go, people. Let's get this party started. And a one, and a two, and a 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. Modern day warrior named Tom Sawyer. He floated down a river on a raft with a black guy.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Bryan Mirando. This is the Free For All podcast, and in the studio today, I got Alex Braun from Dream Spectrum. How you doing, Alex?
Doing well, Brian. How are you?
Doing good. Now, Dream Spectrum, they're becoming real big. I gotta say, I had you guys on the second episode as the feature artist of the day, and I got so much feedback from that. You know, a lot of people are saying you guys are great, you guys are rocking. The only question they had was instrumental rock. You know, what made you want to go more instrumental than have a singer and do, you know, the tradition rock and roll 4-piece band?
Well, it wasn't intentional that we were going to start out as instrumental. We actually had plans to try and get a vocalist. We've had a couple people audition, but throughout the auditions, they weren't either singing in the right key, they couldn't hold a pitch, or they just flat out were partiers and they just wanted to party more so than practice. We were very serious about this band and wanted to take it to the next level. So as time went on and, you know, the singers we auditioned didn't work out, we're just like, you know what, let's just play covers for now. We'll just start it out. Our guitar player has a really great ear to hear pitches and such. And so he would play the vocal melodies on guitar, and our rhythm guitarist and me and the drummer would play the actual song as written. And as time went on, we started, you know, writing riffs, doing more covers, and we had our first show at my guitar player's high school, West Seneca West, for the Relay for Life. Full-fledged, knowing we didn't have a vocalist, we were just instrumental. We had no idea what to expect. We thought we'd be looked at, we'd be booed because we're just playing music. And we got on stage and we played, I believe the first song was Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson. And immediately everyone just stood still and stared at us. We thought we screwed up. It was just a huge, big, like, oh my God, what did we just do thing? And after the show, we come down and everyone still has that same expression on their face the entire length of the performance, and they're just like, oh my God, you guys kicked ass. What was that? And just from then on, we're like, you know what? Let's try instrumental. If this is the reaction we can get without a singer, let's go instrumental. Let's see where this takes us.
Now you're talking about trying to find singers. How did the band actually get together? How did you actually form Dream Spectrum? Is it still the original lineup from the beginning, or has there been some changes over a period of time you guys have been together, or what's going on with that?
Well, it always has been the original lineup. We only had one additional member joined the band, Todd Glosser, our rhythm guitarist. That's the only new member that ever came into the band. It originally started with me and my drummer, Jake. We met at Guitar Factory during a rock camp simulation where we met at the Guitar Factory and we spent a whole week there covering songs, and then we were going to have a performance. It was more so like this is what being in a band experience was. And I was in a band called The Impurity at the time. And Jake was the drummer in the band I was participating in. And he was very quiet, as was I. And when we were not on the stage practicing our songs, we'd be walking around the store and such. And one of the camp coordinators came up to me and informed me that Jake was a huge Rush fan, as am I. And she's like, why don't you go talk to him? Because he was isolating himself. And I went up to him and I said, hi, I'm Alex. And we just hit it off like that. And then a month later, I broke up with the band The Impurity. And I called up Jake and I said, hey, you want to jam? And November 16th, 2013 was the first day Jake and I jammed and decided, let's start a band.
Now, besides from Dream Spectrum, you also do something else. You actually work at a bar owned by your uncle, Braun's Concert Cove. Now, when I say bar, you know, it's not one of those bars where you bring in cover bands. You bring in international bands like Ted Nugent's played there, Bret Michaels has played there, Rat's played, Skid Row's played there. You know, what is that like? And do you get to really hang out with these guys while you're working, or is it just pretty much they isolate themselves? Like, first of all, talk about the Cove.
Well, I used to work there about 3 years ago before it unfortunately shut down. But the Concert Cove was initially designed to bring in more people because the bar is located in Akron, New York. And that's a very isolated area. And so in order to bring in people, he had to go to the extreme. And he's like, well, why not bring in international, national touring bands? And the big ones, too, like you mentioned, Ted Nugent, Jacko was there, Bret Michaels was there, Cinderella was there at one point, and a few other country artists, too. It wasn't just strictly rock. But when I did work there, my uncle was well aware that I wanted to be a rock star, is my career. And so whenever the bands needed something or they needed help unloading their equipment or they just wanted food, he would ask me to bring the food down to them, or he'd ask me to go help them set up. And therefore, I got connected with a lot of roadies. I got to meet the artists themselves. And I have to say, looking at them on albums and their music videos, you'd think these guys are badasses. They're like these very egotistic, pricks. But you go and meet them, and they're these very chill, nice, relaxed guys. It was a wonderful experience, needless to say. I wish, the bar was still open. I could still do things like that. But the Cove is still definitely a great place to hang out, and I still go there when, artists are there, obviously, to open up for them and still get to meet them, and it's just a great experience.
You mentioning for opening for bands, there's something you did last summer, which I thought was killer. You actually got to open for Buck Cherry at the Cove. Talk about that, because I remember I wanted to go see that show, but I remember I had to work another show that same night. You talk about opening for Buck Cherry. What was that like? I mean, opening for, everybody knows Buck Cherry. The song's Crazy Bitch, Sorry. What is that like opening for a band at that level? It's got to be amazing.
Oh, it's quite the thrill. All of us were just in, starstruck moment when we got the opportunity to go open for them. We honestly did not know what to expect. Obviously, Buck Cherry is a little more harder rock than we are, and our songs are primarily a mixture of progressive with some, I guess you could say, pop feel to it. Because of the lack of vocalists, we have to keep it, interesting one way or another. And, well, we got there, and we played, and at first, we did not get a good response from the audience. Like I said, two different styles going at it. But Buck Cherry, believe it or not, took a huge interest when they heard us. In fact, at one point, I believe all the band members were down in the pit signing autographs and such while we were playing. And I remember one of their bodyguards, or their manager, I believe, came up and was talking to one of our fathers and said, "They're digging those boys. Like, they are down there going, who are they? Like, this is amazing." And we didn't know about this at the time of our performance, but, the audience that came to see them was very, what is this? But Buck Cherry totally digged us. And when they were done with their autograph sessions, the meet and greets, if you want to call it that, their guitar player came up. His name was Keith Nielsen. Yes, thank you. Came up and recorded us playing yet again Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson, and immediately went back to the tour bus where the road manager and the crew manager were and said, "You guys need to hear them." And after the performance was all said and done, the road manager and the crew manager came up to us and were saying, "You guys sounded great. We saw the video of Cliffs of Dover. Oh my God, that was fantastic." The next day, or at least a couple days after, I recall, we got a post on our Facebook page from the stage manager, who happens to also be the band manager for Buck Cherry, and he said, "Unbelievable show, guys. I was completely blown away. It was amazing." He's like, "Next time Buck Cherry comes into town, I want you guys to be there to open for them again." It was just a thrill, both at the performance and the news after. Starstruck.
Now, you were mentioning before the Concert Cove. Now, I know the story, but a lot of people don't know the story, that your uncle went through a lot of problems having the concerts there. Do you mind talking about it? Because this was, big news. This was on the news, and everything was in the newspaper and everything. Do you mind talking about the behind-the-scenes and what actually happened? Because I remember me and you were talking about this a while back. I know what happened, but I want the fans to know what kind of bullshit went down and why the concerts were shut down. The concerts were stopped. Tell the people what they want to hear.
Well, my uncle, obviously, in order to have a concert cove that big with bands that well-known, there was a lot of paperwork you have to go through the town and stuff. Obviously, you got marshals all the way cranked to 10 and, all the loud noises and such. And unfortunately, down the street behind the cove is, I want to say, in a retirement home or an apartment where primarily it's taken up by elderlies. And so my uncle had to go through the town of Newstead to get all this paperwork done to have the concerts and such. And I'm not sure exactly why it came to this, but the people in the complex behind the cove were complaining about the noise. And it's like, of course, it's an outdoor venue. Like I said, the marshals are cranked to 10. It's going to be loud. But my uncle went through all the paperwork to get to this point so he could have it. So legally, he was set. But I guess the town of Newstead did not like him having the concerts and such. And we're making it much more harder for him to go through. I guess I want him to turn down, the volume to, decibels that were illogical, for lack of better terms, for a show to happen. Like, it was too quiet. Like, if a motorcycle drove by, you could hear the motorcycle. And that's not what you're supposed to hear at a concert. Yeah, really. And it just, because of the lack of, communication between him and Newstead just constantly drilling in these new, oh, well, you need to do this and this and this. The Cove just eventually couldn't continue to go on with these new restrictions and such, and he just had to shut it down temporarily because the complex, like I said, were complaining about the noise, and then Newstead was just adding new restrictions, just left and right, just making it difficult for any bands to show up there. So, needless to say, Newstead was kind of screwing him over. Well, and I guess in addition to it, the woman in charge of this whole dispute with my uncle and such, her family owns a bunch of restaurants up in the Akron-Newstead area, and I heard that she wasn't very fond of the competition, considering the only advantage my uncle had was bringing in these big bands and such. She was worried that it was going to draw business away from her family, and therefore added even much more restrictions to the point where it was like almost impossible to have the Cove legally function in the area.
And that just shows how dirty politics can be, because instead of, trying to enhance your business with more advertising, you got to go and take away something else that's actually benefiting a lot of people. It gives people more entertainment to go see. A lot of bands that you wouldn't see play normally in the Buffalo area get to go play there. I remember the London Choir Boys a couple years ago. They went and did their reunion show there, which I heard was a great show. You've had all these bands here, and it's just sad that to see something like that for something stupid like that, Is he trying to get it back and running, or is he just basically tapping out and just giving up?
Well, the latest I heard was that he was going to try to get it to start back up again. I heard, well, clearly I opened for Buck Cherry last summer, so that just goes to show he is already making an effort to do so. But this time he's starting it up again with the restrictions that Newstead and him originally agreed on before this, political stuff happened. And to my knowledge, like I said, it's been going well so far. I mean, right now it's at a standstill. The restaurant itself needs another company to take it over to bring revenue while the concerts aren't there. But as far as bringing bands in and such, he's still going to try and make that possible.
I hope it happens real soon. Now, we got to take a break now. Now, every week, so far as all you know, I usually have my guests pick a song to play in the show. What song did you pick this week, Alex?
I decided to pick Iron Maiden's song, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Very good pick. Here's Iron Maiden with Stranger in a Strange Land on Bryan Mirando's Free For All podcast. That was Iron Maiden with Stranger in a Strange Land. I'm Bryan Mirando. This is the Free For All podcast. I got Alex Braun from Dream Spectrum here. Now, you got 2 records out right now, am I correct? One out now, and you're working on the second one.
Yes, that is correct. We actually have our debut album titled Emotion out now. It's been out for at least 2 years, and we're working on our second album that we do not have a name yet for. So if you have any ideas or suggestions for a band name, leave it in the comments, and Brian will tell me. But right now, we finished recording at least all the songs. It's going to be another 10-song album. We're in the process of getting the final mix done, and then we're going to send it to Scott Hall, who did the Rolling Stones and Steely Dan, to master it for us. He actually mastered our first album, too. And so, as of right now, that's where we stand.
You said you work with the Rolling Stones?
Mm-hmm. When we finished recording our first album, we were hunting down people who mastered albums and such, and we wanted a big-name person. Obviously, we knew the price was going to be a little touchy, but we wanted this album to be like, we're an instrumental rock band, we're Dream Spectrum, we're going to kick some ass. And we came across Scott Hall. We heard through Justin Rose at GCR. He's like, go check out Scott Hall. He's worked with some big-name bands before. So my drummer went home, and he checked out his website, and he lists the artists he's worked with. Like I said, the only 2 I can remember distinctively off his website were the Rolling Stones and Steely Dan, and that was good enough for us.
Now, you mentioned working at GCR, obviously owned by Robbie from the Goo Goo Dolls. You got a good relationship with Robbie from the Goo Goo Dolls. He's a real good guy. I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Robbie is a great man. We don't know him, let's say, on a personal bias, like his personal life and such, but every time we've been at the studio to record our songs or cover videos like we did with our music video for Satch Boogie by Joe Satriani, he's always popped up unexpectedly, and he'd sit in the studio with us and just listen to what we've recorded. Just sit there and nod and smile, and he'll look at all of us, and he'll laugh, and he'll take off. But we've ran into him numerous times, both at the studio and at his Music is Art organization, where if we were to go up to him and say, hi, Robbie, he automatically knows who we are. He doesn't necessarily know our names, but he knows we're in the band Dream Spectrum.
Now, for all you out there that don't know, Music is Art's one of our big music festivals we have here in Buffalo every year. Robbie owns it. It's for what? It gives instruments to schools. And you actually got to headline that one year, in fact. What was that like? Because I heard the outcomes for Music is Art's very big here in Buffalo. It's a very massive festival. We got musicians from all walks of life. You got country musicians, folk singers, artists, painters. You got all this different art coming together. What was that like performing at a show like that?
Scary. I'm not going to lie. It was, we heard about Music is Art through one of the board members at the time, a great man named Ryan Consula. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us, but we heard about it through him, and in order to participate on the main stage at the organization, we had to go through the Battle of the Bands that Robbie also hosted, and first place was a time slot on the main stage. And we participated in it, and we were thinking, we're instrumental, the odds. We believed in ourselves, but we're like going up against vocalists, we're like, okay, this is going to be fun. Needless to say, we came in first place after the competition, and all the other bands were great too. And it guaranteed us a spot at the Music is Art Festival. And fortunately, the really interesting, cool part was that was the same year that the Goo Goo Dolls were going to do their free show. And we were, I want to say, possibly the 5th or 6th slot away from the Goo Goo Dolls at that main stage. And it was electrifying. Of course, the weather that day was just horrible. It was downpouring, it was freezing, there was wind. The weather itself played to an effect as to why not many people were there. But when we got up on the stage and played, you just overlooked the entire organization, all the stages and stuff like that, and it was a mob of people. And obviously we only had enough time to play 3 songs, but they all just came swarming in. And it was, I want to say, at least over 100 people because of the weather and such. There was maybe close to 200, something like that were watching. It was just those moments that you want to see when you're trying to make it in the music field. It was breathtaking. It was awesome.
Now, Alex, 2 weeks ago I had Maddie Rabin in the hot seat. Last week I had Tanner DeMarco in the hot seat. Now it's time for your chance to be in the hot seat. Do you mind doing a Q&A?
Of course. I'm all for it.
I'm waiting for one of these days for somebody to say no, just going to screw up the entire show, Do you mind doing the Q&A? Absolutely not. All right, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You answer them as truthfully and honestly as you can, and hopefully people like what you got to say, I guess.
I hope so.
First question, your favorite bass player and why?
Oh, that's simple. That's Geddy Lee of Rush. He was the reason I play bass guitar now. He's actually, embarrassing moment, in 5th grade, I grew a mullet just because he had one. And I didn't take care of it, so it didn't look that good, but by far, Geddy Lee is my favorite bass player of all time.
Your favorite new and old band?
I will openly admit, I do not listen to a lot of newer music. I will say my favorite new band, even though they've been out for quite some time now, would have to be Avenged Sevenfold, only because their album Hail to the Kings, it was more so in the field of rock that I like, the harder rock stuff. So I would have to say Avenged Sevenfold is my quote-quote new favorite band. My old favorite band clearly is Rush, of course. As I've mentioned, Geddy Lee's my idol.
Question 3, favorite place to do a show?
This one I'm going to have to cheat a little on because there's 3 big ones that I really like to perform at. There's obviously my uncle's Concert Cove because I've opened for bands there like Jackal and Cinderella and such. Quiet Riot, actually. I've opened up for them too. My second favorite is the Rockin' Buffalo Saloon up in West Seneca. The owner, Mike, there's a great guy. Work well together. It's great experience. And then, of course, the Buffalo Ironwork, where we had our album release party and where we won the Battle of the Bands for Music is Art. So that place holds a special memory to me, too.
Funny concert memories?
All right. I got a good one. Back when I was working for my uncle, when the restaurant was known as Braun's, he had Steve Piercy from Rat come to perform. And this guy was just hysterical. He was a great guy, but he was drunker than drunk. And I wanted to meet him so badly because I, too, am a big fan of Rat. And my uncle, of course, talked him into coming up to the kitchen to meet with me and get a photo and stuff. And Steve is so drunk, he comes...
Staggering through the kitchen?
Yes, he
People bringing plates in and shit. They're like...
He literally came in staggering through the kitchen and literally almost walked past me downstairs into the basement. It was so funny. And then my aunt had to stop him. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. He comes back up and he hugs me. He's like, bro, it's nice to see you. He's like, you look good, man. How's it going? Pats me on the back. And he's like, you want a photo or something, son? I'm like, yeah, of course. So I got a photo with the drunk Steve Piercy of Rat.
Maybe next time along you can see the sober Steve Piercy. Oh, boy. This one comes from Tanner DeMarco. He wants to know, do you still think you're going to get more views than me on Bryan Mirando's Free For All podcast? Now, a lot of people who watched last week, there's a little feud going on between the two of you. And Tanner last week had a couple choice words for you, which I'm going to play right now.
Well, considering Alex Braun is a fake person, you know, I don't really see a threat. I mean, it's Alex Braun. What do I got to worry about? You know, that kid, you know, thinks he can play bass, tries to play bass and jazz, you know. John replaced him last week with a keyboard because he decided not to show up. Like, who doesn't show up to school? You know, he thinks he's going to beat me, but I'm sorry to tell you that, like your band Dream Spectrum, you're living in a dream world, Alex.
What do you got to say about what he said? What do you think about that?
Quite honestly, if we're going to resort to bashing each other, I have nothing to say to him. He's just acting so immature. It's a typical drummer characteristic. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stoop down to that level to bash a drummer because, God forbid, we all know how easy it is to bash a drummer. Just hold up your hand and tell him to count how many fingers you have. He stops at 4 and goes, I'm not even going to waste my breath or my time with him. Obviously, he's jealous that I'm really good at bass. He wouldn't have brung it up if that was the case. He's jealous that I'm in a band called Dream Spectrum. Let's face it. Rescue Dawn, Dream Spectrum. I'm probably going to go with Dream Spectrum.
Well, he did take his name from a movie. That's original.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of Dream Spectrum, where did you get the name Dream Spectrum?
Unlike you, Tanner, who had to take their band name from a movie, we came up with original band name. We got Dream Spectrum from 2 different sources. See, unlike you, Tanner DeMarco, who decided to take a name from a movie for your band name, me and my drummer went all original and decided to look into creating our own band name off of 2 separate sources. We got the name Dream from a song from Rush called Dreamline off their album Roll the Bones. Needless to say, we cut it down because it was too long. And then we got Spectrum from a name of I believe, an Ibanez guitar. My drummer has a guitar chart in his basement, and that name stuck out the most. So we just combined the two, and there you go.
Now, for all those who are keeping score, Tanner DeMarco last week got a total of 75 views. Do you think you can beat that number this week, Alex?
Without a doubt. Like, is that even a question, Brian? Come on, I thought this was, your free-for-all podcast. Why are you asking me simple little questions like this? Of course I'm going to outdo him in views.
I got to bring you two together. This war's got to stop. Anyway, it's that time again. Feature artist of the day. Feature artist of the day is a band called Area 7 with their song Individuality. Here's Area 7 with Individuality on Bryan Mirando's Free-for-all podcast.
They always said that you would never be anything. Everything you tried to do was just a waste of time. But you believed you could do anything you wanted to. You made your mind up and you never looked behind. Don't let them try to tell you how to live your life. Don't let them hold you back. Don't ever change your mind. Individuality, be proud of what you are. Individuality, don't let them cut you down. You can be whatever you want to be, but don't change yourself for society. Don't lose your individuality. The years go by, you find that nothing comes easily, and the world is full of people trying to take you down. Don't ever turn your back on anything you've ever been. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody else. Don't let them try to tell you how to live your life. Don't let them hold you back. Don't ever change your mind. Individuality, be proud of what you are. Individuality, don't let them cut you down. You can be whatever you want to be, but don't change yourself for society. Don't lose your individuality. There's no room for second best. No second chance, don't fail the test. Gotta rise above the rest. Gotta try to make your mark. You don't need to be so vain. No need to act so proud. Follow the trends. Don't ever stand out from the crowd. Do you really care what other people think about you? Does it really matter what they do or what they say? You fought too hard to let them throw it all back in your face, when their opinion never mattered anyway. Don't let them try to tell you how to live your life. Don't let them hold you back. Don't ever change your mind. Individuality, be proud of what you are. Individuality, don't let them cut you down. You can be whatever you want to be, but don't change yourself for society. Don't lose your individuality. Don't lose your individuality. No, don't lose your individuality.
That was Area 7 with Individuality. I'm Bryan Mirando. This is the Free For All podcast. Alex Braun from Dream Spectrum over here. Our time's just about wrapping up now. Can you tell the fans out there, what do you got planned for the future? What's going on? Obviously, you got the record coming out. Are you working on the record right now? It should be released. When is it supposed to be released?
It's going to be released early this summer. We're hoping maybe June, July.
Yeah, that seems like the pinpoint spot now. You know, back then albums would come out all the time. Now it just seems like it's on a specific date. Really, it's when they release most of their stuff. You know, I mean, albums do come out during the year, but mostly it seems like the bigger ones come out either in the winter or it comes in the summer, or early summer just before the tour comes out. So. Yeah, so anything else coming out? Any tours coming up? Any gigs going around? Anything else?
Well, this weekend we got the opportunity to play at a festival in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where there will be a lot of people higher up in the music industry being there, participating in the audience and such. And so we're hoping that it works out and something good comes out of this. As far as doing tours and such, being out busy with recording the album and getting that all taken care of, we haven't really put a lot of focus into finding shows within the area or outside the state to start a tour. But our game plan is, once this album is all done production-wise and such, we're going to start nailing companies and restaurants and businesses within the state and outside the state. And if not this summer, hopefully by the beginning of next summer, we'll do a little tour of some sort.
So, anything else you got to say?
No, actually, I believe, that's all I had to say. Thank you for having me on the show. It was a blast, and, I hope to be on it again someday.
Of course, anytime. I'm Bryan Mirando. This is the Free For All podcast. Me and Alex Braun saying goodbye.
Sayonara.
I'm Bryan Mirando. Thank you for watching the Free For All podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter. Like me on Facebook. The links are in the description below. Thank you for watching.